علاقتنا مع الماء إنه كان ينحسر ويمنحنا يابسة نعيم عليها حتى أصبحنا نحن الشر الذي نعتدي عليه. نقول في البحرين البحر قدار، فأصبحنا نحن اليوم القدارين الذين سلبنا من البحر حقه في الوجود.
So it was always water that it was getting back and giving us this soil, this land to live on. That's how our relationship was with the sea. And we always had this saying in Bahrain that the sea is not safe if that's in the back. But now we are starting the sea in the back and taking this land from it and getting the water away.
Thank you. I'm really struck by that saying, what you said, we are from water and to water we return, because in the Christian burial service, there is dust you are and to dust you will return. Interesting in Islam as well. So that's a really striking contrast. Really, the sea plays a big part in your work as well. The sea is in the title of one of your collections, The Sea Tells My Fortune. And your collection, Our Home, the first poem in it is Fish. Can you talk a bit about the influence of the sea in your work, the importance of that?
Well, the sea is a symbol in my, because we don't have a sea in Iraq. We have a sea, a small town by the sea, by the Gulf, anyway, by the Arab Gulf. But in Baghdad, we don't have a sea. So the sea was my way of competing with war. You know, the wars, and since the invasion of Iraq by the Americans, I mean, after 2003, we needed some open horizon for us to live, to feel. So I tried to make the blue color, the turquoise, the lovely colorful sea, my way of expressing myself and my way of defending my humanity against what's happening. So this was a symbol. So even when you read the poem itself, the sea tells my fortune, I describe the sea as if an old man with a beard and glasses sitting on the floor and smoking and trying to read my fortune, what's going on and what's going to be happening, and speaking about wonderful lands and peaceful places. And this was the symbol of the sea in my book. But while asking about our home, Baytuna is our place. It means our home, it means our house, and it means our homeland. This was written after I left Iraq, and this was crying and longing for my own homeland, for my own home. I mean, home is my pillow, my mug, my neighborhood, my childhood school. I mean, this is home. Home is my friends, my relatives, my memories, the street, even the small market, the man in the market who would say good morning, salam alaikum, in our way. I was in Egypt, I wasn't far. I was with my Arab, very welcoming people, but I felt away, so away. And they were killing everywhere. I mean, this was the Civil War. I was so worried about my parents and my friends, and I lost many of them. This was the home, Now you see the contradiction here. Through the war, I was writing about love and about the sea and about to defend myself and my humanity. While when I went out, I started writing about all these, but in a safe place, in a safe shelter, in a home which is not my home, but I feel safe in.
So the sea was a kind of act of resistance for you,
yes.
a tool for resistance in your writing.
Yes,
Yeah,
completely.
thank you.
Completely.
Shirin, your novel, The Gin Waits 100 Years, is set on the coast. And the sea is perhaps less prominent in your work, but there is a sense of that ocean dividing the central characters from their homelands. Can you talk a bit about place in your work and how that fed into your writing? And the house that the novel takes place in is it's almost a character itself in the book. At times you write about it like a body, and it seems to suffer from ailments, a bit like a human. How did place feed into your work and into your writing, and that sense of identity that comes through?
Yeah, thank you, Anne. In terms of the sea, I live on the east coast of South Africa in Durban, so we have the Indian Ocean. The other coast of South Africa has the Atlantic Ocean, and so the sea connects me to India. I mean, it's the route that my grandfather took when he came from India to South Africa and he crossed the ocean. And I always say that I found myself stuck in the same city for my whole life, in the same house that I grew up in. And I always say maybe me being in Durban is to be in the same space, because my grandfather had moved so far and moved so much that my stillness is to make up for his movement. In terms of setting my book, The Gin Waits 100 Years, in Durban, in literature in South Africa, it's, Johannesburg and Cape Town get most of the settings when novels are written, and Durban kind of gets left behind in general. It's a smaller city, somewhat laid back. Most people who have creative ambitions leave the city and they go out, and so I really wanted to set a story in the city that no one really wrote much about, and tell a story about also the Indian community there. And also I feel like it's a place, if you stay long enough, if you're willing to stay long enough, whether you want to or you don't want to, it has secrets to tell. So it's a very tropical city, it's warm. We've got the warm Mozambique current next to us. There's a lot of greenery. There's a type of green that can make your eyes water. It's lush, it's humid, it's a breathing, living city that, I describe it as if you throw a seed in the air, it will burst into a bloom before it can even hit the ground. It feels so alive and lush, which I also see here in India. And so I really wanted to write a novel that celebrated that particular place and that particular feeling.
And the house, the gardens, actually, there's a lion that escapes at one point in the book. It's quite threatening, but bewitching, the surroundings of it. There's a sense of threat, but also beauty and abundance.
It's so much to table there in that way, because you don't know what to expect in this city. And so Durban is like that, and I wanted to kind of celebrate that in the novel, which is, there's this man who has all these animals in his garden, and there's a giraffe, and there's a lion, and the lion escapes, and I wanted to show that the absurd and the beautiful can exist together.
That's a lovely way of putting it. Your work focuses mostly on Cairo and Alexandria, but you also write novels that wander, and The Magic of Turquoise goes to Germany. I wondered about place in your work and how you felt writing Germany through Egyptian eyes, what that experience was like.
Well, it's not only The Magic of Turquoise, it's most of my books are cross-cultural. Half of it represents me. Half of it is very Egyptian concerning the characters, and half of it is cross-cultural, whether other nationalities, other religions, and they all mingle together and get into one identity. Place is very important because I do believe that the footprints and everything that took place in the place had left its effect on the walls and these things. That was at a previous stage when I've written The Magic of Turquoise, when the places were still there. But because of urban change that is taking place these days strongly and fiercely, I'm trying to preserve the stories in other novels that took place in these places that are being demolished. One of my, maybe because you've read The Magic of Turquoise, it was all about the colors and the gems and things like that, through representing a certain place that still existed. But in the Secret of Anger, it's totally about a place that has been demolished. I had an archaeologist who asked me to write, he said, as long as this place no more exists, at least we should preserve the stories that took place. So I went there when the place isn't there anymore, and I lived there, and I tried to feel the stories that has taken place over there. And I've written this, and the smells were the main theme, and because the grandparent of one of the protagonists was a spice man, and she was into perfumes, and the smells took place, and she wanted to document the building where she lives that already exists by the smell of each apartment. We all have this sensual feeling when you smell a certain place, you get back to the memory that reminds you of something like songs, for example. So I say that places are like songs. When you see a place, you feel, you get the memories of that thing. And we treat places like human beings. We hate this place. I hate this place. Why? Because something bad happened to me. Is the place responsible? No, it's not responsible. But we accuse the place of and we hate it because something bad had happened to us here.
So we impose characteristics.
Yeah. So the place is the main protagonist in most of my novels.
Interesting. I wonder, writing novels that travel so far, whether there are limits on what you would feel comfortable presenting. So would that always have to be through the eyes of an Egyptian character, or would you feel confident writing through the eyes of characters from other cultures?
Well, I want to make a point. My friends, they have been forced out of the places. So that's why we tend to do the opposite. That's why they cling very strongly to the places of their origin. But I live in my country, so that's why I look to the other places and use it as a complementary places vis-a-vis identity, feelings, emotions. And when I write about characters, I don't judge them. I adopt what the character do. I adopt his feelings, his point of view. I just talk in his tongue, not in my. I don't judge him.
Thank you. Gisela, I heard you react when Shabnam was talking about her grandparents having moved so much and she wanted to stay still, and you kind of said, and it seemed to resonate with you. I wondered about placing your work and your writing. You talked about defining yourself as Guinea-Bissau, although you have not been back much since you left as a child. How does place figure in your writing, your work? What influence does it have?
Thank you. Well, I wanted to say, listening to all my peers, that one of the questions that I'm asked more, at some point it was every day, are you from Cape Verde? Because this shows the ignorance that I'm sure we all have encountered across the world, but especially I live in a country that colonized many others, and that's why I speak Portuguese, but that was not my first language. It was Creole. So, and also I'm very proud to say that I was born in a free country because my parents weren't born in a free country. They were born in a country that was still occupied by the Portuguese. And only in 1973 that Guinea-Bissau became independent. So it was the first of those countries to become independent. So it's very, there is this ignorance, there is also this obsession, fetishism, we're always wondering, asking if I'm from Cape Verde, and then it's like they're playing the game. You must be from some of these countries, but they barely know countries in Africa. They couldn't name any other of the countries that are other than the ones that were colonized. And that says much about the Portuguese identity, which is, of course, Cristiano Ronaldo. I came here, and that was the 2 words that I heard the most in the first 2 days. But because it's very attached to colonization and to what they call the expansion, which is also, as you know, connected here to India, right? We have all these monuments dedicated to the explorers and people who were slave traders, but they don't say that, right? They say they see themselves as the good colonizers, and well, you know, and you're from England, you know how there is, oh, who ended slavery first? We are so good, we're so good. No, it's not. So that's what it's taught to today in schools. For me, that's the thing. I think our parents do the best they can, but it's very hard to be immigrants and to be very young in a new country. So one thing is that the same oppression that happened back home, when the Portuguese forbid Creole because it was the common language among all the other ethnicities in Guinea. When I arrived, me and my sister, before we went to school, my parents always said, don't speak Creole in school, even with the other girls. And so it kind of became, they thought they would defend us, so we didn't have an accent, so we wouldn't be discriminated. But we were anyways, because I mean, it can't, it's immediate. Here I am, like I'm a black person, my sister as well. So it's very complicated because now there's this movement that we see many other people, and someone was talking about this the other day, about the clothes that my mom only wore in the house, like the traditional clothes, and now people of my generation and younger, we're wearing it proudly outside everywhere. It's like a gala, like we always feel empowered by our own fabrics and everything and the jewelry. So it's very interesting because I also have friends at my age, and now they're trying to learn more about Creole and speak it, but it's like it's such a powerful thing. It was another language that we had and that we could have to practice. I mean, our parents spoke among themselves with the rest of the family and with us, but we could not speak. So it's kind of strange when we speak, because so going back there was amazing. I actually went back there for work unexpectedly because I was building a show, a theater play called Belonging. And so it was my first time coming back, and one of my colleagues, it was also his first time coming back since he was 9 years old. So he hadn't been with his family for so long, his mother. So we went to the capital, Bissau, and I saw my family there. But we also went to the villages he grew in, and he even experienced civil war, all of these things that I didn't experience, of course. And it's also a wound, because I think when I think of the published African authors of Portuguese speaking official languages, the poets, they talk about love, but many of them, they wrote from prison. They were in the military, in the army, in the militia. They were fighting, literally fighting. And so their poetry talks about that a lot. But there's also a younger generation that maybe won't get to be published, or it will take them longer, who also experience some kind of war, but sometimes that's forgotten.
Do you write in Creole at all?
No, not yet, because it's very different. But my father, he also writes, and he has one book that has poems but he writes it's mostly political things. But he has one poetry book that has some poems in Creole and some in Portuguese. And on his website, he has like proverbs in Creole. It's very interesting, but sometimes I don't recognize the words because that's the thing. We don't have so much print. It's all very oral and it changes. And there are so many languages. It's a small country, but it has several languages within. So there's this disconnect because even, but this happens in other countries that have Portuguese as the official language because people learn Portuguese in school throughout university, but at home, no one else is speaking Portuguese, So, but for me, just to say that this show asked the question, to who, what, or where do you belong? And so different people from all over the world were answering that, and we were also talking about DNA tests and how much or how little they say about us and how they are used politically as a tool to also control us and oppress us, and how the data is only as accurate as the information that the lab already has in there. So there's this thing, these people are kind of, I think sometimes people are disappointed to find out they're not more exotic, but I guess.
Yeah. No, there's something that happens when writing starts to travel, and all of us here, our stories have travelled outside the borders of our original homelands, is that you start to get expected to speak for certain communities, certain nations, certain points of view. People see you as a voice of, for me, the UK. Gisela, you were asked to do a project, a sentence, the Lisbon 48, where you had to write a sentence to be put about freedom to be put on the pavement in Lisbon. I mean, that feels like a lot of pressure. Did you feel like you were having to speak for anyone other than yourself when doing that? How do you feel about this idea of speaking for a community? Is there any value in it?
I mean, I'm an activist. I was kind of forced to be, but because before I used to reject politics because I saw what they did to my father. I felt like that isolated him, and many times he would get death threats and have the police come to our house, even from leaders in Guinea-Bissau, because he's so outspoken. So I kind of rejected that, but it's impossible. It's life is political, everything is political, art is political. But I don't know, I'm part of collectives and I'm also an ally for other causes. No, I think everybody who has some conscience will reject that. No one can represent everybody, no one can do it alone. It has to be communal efforts. So, yeah, no, I would reject that. But in that was an honor, but the thing that occasion was of the 50th anniversary of the Carnation Revolution, which is when Portugal threw down the fascist regime. But they say it was the best revolution because it happened without blood. Yes, but excuse me, you were in Africa killing black people, killing Africans, so it was not, so now when we go to the protest, because it's a huge holiday in Portugal, and so now us, the black ones, we always have these banners that says that it started in Africa, that revolution, that the fact that you're out of fascism, it started in Africa with our wars, our independence wars, because they never give credit to them.
Now, what about you? How do you feel? Is there any value in being considered an Egyptian writer? Does that, or do you reject that as a useful term? Do you feel that you speak for any particular community, or is that unhelpful?
I speak for the middle class in Egypt. It was not a decision. That's what I've heard from the critics. They say that I document for the middle Egyptian class, which once it has been considered like a sacred class. They say that this class is the one that keeps the balance in the society. This is what sociology says. But there's a lot of defects in this class. So I try to speak for them and to keep their heritage, the good things that used to take place, And but there was also bad things, bad traditions, like the session we attended yesterday, that all families are messy. The messy things that took place. The middle class is not sacred. So I speak for it not because I want to make it a cause, but because simply I come from it, so I can speak better. But when I travel, I have 15 books or 16 books now. When I travel, I meet a lot of other nationalities. Sometimes I speak for the Palestinian cause. Sometimes I speak for an English person. I have an English protagonist, a British protagonist, an American one, and all the nationalities, a Polish one. Each carries his own cross, like they say. So I speak for them for two reasons: to let others, I mean the readers, feel that are human beings. They have the same emotions like us, but in different contexts. And for other readers or other persons, they look at the other as a sacred person. The West is the dream, like the American dream before, now the British dream or the European dream. No, they are normal people who have their sufferings as well. So when I just represent one person who says a lot about his community and his country, that makes us feel that we're all in this together. Nobody is an exception. So yes, I do speak for my protagonists.
Thank you. Shannon, do you see yourself as speaking for any particular community? Do you see yourself as a South African writer? Is that a valuable term? Or if not, who do you speak for, if at all?
When I'm in South Africa, I think I speak for South African Indians. And I like that, and I'm proud of that, because last year I won like one of the biggest literary awards in South Africa, and I was the first South African Indian woman to win it. And for me, that was important because there's a history of that. That's 20 years of this award. And part of what the apartheid government wanted to do was to separate the races and for us to know as little about each another as possible. And so I feel like when I get the opportunity to publish my stories and tell them within the South African field, is that I'm opening up our worlds to one another more, and we're bridging that divide that was built between us. So for me, to make us integrate more, I have that opportunity to integrate us more by just sharing our stories. And so even though I represent South African Indian, if my stories are more out there in South Africa, we recognize one another more, we integrate more. So for me, I do see myself as representing that part of our rainbow nation, and it's important to share those stories. And then also just being a Muslim, even telling my stories in the country, it's important, I think, in this day and age also. Just any community telling any of their stories creates more empathy for each person with the other. So I think for me it was important. I mean, even winning that award, I kept thinking of my aunts who had never gone to school. All my aunts had never gone to school. And for them to see an Indian woman receiving this award in South Africa would have, they would have been, if they had been allowed, they would have been so happy to see it. So, representation, especially to minorities, is important. So I'm happy to represent it.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that about particularly with minorities. I mean, the introduction I talked about Welsh identity, and that's a source of pride. Whereas my English, I'm 3/4 English, but I'm not so proud of that, because it's the majority identity versus minority, and there's some strength, I think, in a minority identity asserting itself, isn't there?
And can I just add one more thing that I didn't answer when we were asking about identify, and I think that applies to everyone here in this room, is that I feel increasingly an identity with the global South. It's just, the more we have these discussions about the West and what's happening in the West, and this movement that's happening, increasingly I will always identify with writers, or identity even just from Africa and from the East, and increasingly I feel I am a person from the global south and I know what that means and the challenges that means. When I travel, I know what it means when you have European autism, when you have autism from Africa, and how difficult there's certain things that we would only understand how you have to navigate those things.
Thank you. Yeah, that's another important identity, I think, that, yeah, I'm very glad you brought up. Liam, what about you? Do you see yourself as speaking for a particular community in your work?
Well, to begin with, I speak for women. This is the most important thing. I mean, being a woman in the Arab world, in the time of wars, in the time of sufferings. I mean, first of all, being a mother, for example, being a wife, being a girl that needs freedom, for example, in a preservative communities, for example. This one was first. This was my intention. My first book was called Seagulls Commit Flying. So as if we are seagulls and we are accused of committing flying. So we are, as girls, we are committing our freedom, So this was my first intentionality. But when one would grow up, would feel more mature, to feel more about the big issues that's happening in the world. Of course, at the end, I'm Iraqi. I speak for the Iraqis. I've lived throughout a dictatorship that I need to explain what happened, really, the truth and nothing but the truth. I mean, many now Arabs feel that the dictator was a hero. So how come you defend a dictator that killed his own people, that made us go through many wars, and talk about him so as a hero, as someone who was killed by the bad people? No, he was bad. He was bad. He was bad. We have to say that. So I felt for a while that this is a mission for us all, that we witnessed all these things, that we have to say it in poetry. And actually, I started few times to write all what happened in novels. But I didn't succeed till now. I have to admit, I'm good maybe in poetry, but not good as May Khaled, as a novelist, for example, or as others. But this is my mission. I mean, to express that. So to present to present us, the people who suffered. Plus, as an Arab, as a community, as a lady, a woman belonging to this and these countries, and speaking Arabic, so and expressing in Arabic, and my English made me translate them as well, to let the people know, let the world know what's going on, and also not having that stereotype about us being whatever the stereotype is. I mean, as all what you said about Africa and about being a dark lady in Portugal, or I mean, there are so many stereotypical ideas that are. I mean, me in London, though London is different and is a cosmopolitan place. But me, I'm not considered a native living citizen. I am a citizen, but who am I? I mean, after 2 or 3 questions, you feel that they want to go deeper and know, how do you think? What do you think of them? Are you different? Are you the same? As if they are asking you, do you used to go on a camel? One day, a lady asked me, have you seen rain before? Rain before? Do you have rain in your country? I mean, I said, excuse me, what did you study? This was my question. I mean, this was my question. I mean, I didn't come from. I don't know where did I come from. I mean, each country has rain. Even the desert, it rains even in the desert. But the question wasn't that. It was looking highly of a lower people.
Yeah, looking down.
Looking down.
Yeah.
So that's, I mean, what's literature if not expressing all these feelings towards that? And I've written so many poems concerning that. I mean, they look down to you in a way or another. One of my poems expressing me myself asking, where are you from and where do you belong? I said, I'm Arab. I wear Arabic clothes. I put Arab eyeliners. I put Arab perfumes. I speak Arabic, and Arabic language is a wonderful, wonderful language. And I'm not dumb. I'm not eye-folded. I'm civilized. I'm cultured. I'm brought up by a very good family. We have scientists. We were bombed because we had scientists. We created bombs, for example.
Yeah.
We have doctors. We have good men of words. So we are civilized. We are the first civilization in the world. We are Mesopotamian. We are Babylonian and the Sumerian. We're in our land. So we are not on camels, and we have rain. We have rain. We see rain. Yeah, we see rain.
I think that should be the title of your next collection. We have rain. That should be the title of your next collection. We have rain.
We have.
I'm really interested. There are two things that struck me about what you said. One is that it seems to me you feel yourself to be speaking against prevailing narratives. So you're speaking against the kind of maybe the big Western narratives or the kind of the received narratives, the central narratives that many people accept without question. And the other thing that you said about women, I'm really pleased you raised that, because a question that I was wondering about asking, obviously we're all women sitting on the stage, and I thought I was thinking of a question about is identity different for women, and then I thought no, because if it was all men sitting on the stage, no one would think to ask that question. So I'm not going to ask it, but I'm very pleased that you raised that. Thank you. We're going to, after we hear from Layla, we're going to open the floor to audience questions. So please do think, if there's anything that you've got that you'd like to ask the panel, please do have your question ready. Layla, what about you? How does this question resonate for you?
Thank you, Anna. I really like the question.
Thank you.
سأقول لكم حكاية. في طفولتي ذهبت إلى البحر، هربت من المدرسة وذهبت إليه. كان في حالة جزع، أي أن الماء كان ضخما، لذلك اعتقدت أنه من الآمن أن أسير عليه، وحين سرت على الماء ابتلعني البحر، فنحن نملك جغرافية خاصة ببحرنا، أي أن هناك رمال متحركة تمسكنا وتبلعنا. في تلك اللحظة شعرت أن البحر يسحبني ويضع ماءه في فمي، ومن ذلك اليوم شعرت أني أتحدث لغة الماء. فالأماكن ماكرة تنتدب أصواتنا بكل مكر. You write it down. أصواتنا بكل مكر.
I'll tell you a story. When I was young, it's working. When I was young, I was a child in school, and I decided just to leave school and go to the sea. I wanted to see the sea. And the water was getting bad because not like going off like on the shore. So I walked on the water thinking that, okay, it's safe. Can everyone hear me? Yeah. So I was thinking that it's safe. And then suddenly, all of a sudden, just the water took me there, and the quicksands also pulled me down. And the sea started filling my mouth with water. And since then, I speak the language of the sea. And because of that, I wanted to warn people that places are yeah. So the places bore our voices like with a tricky way, in a tricky way, in a very tricky way. Yeah.
فالأمكنة ليست صامتة كما نعتقد، أي أننا حين دفنا البحر اعتقدنا أنه تلاشى، ولكنها تظهر وتثبت وجودها بطرق مختلفة كما فعل البحر معي. لذلك دائما أرغب بالحديث عن البحر، أشعر أن هذا البحر المحاصر الذي لا هو قادر على أن يجزر بنفسه فيثار ولا أن يمد ماءه فينتقم، يواجه مصيره بكل هذا الصمت والهدوء. فحين ندفن البحار نحاصرها في مكعب عميق ثم نتركه حتى يتحول لونه إلى لون أخضر عفن وتخرج منه رائحة عفنة ثم ندفنه بهذه الطريقة.
We think that places are silent, but it isn't. We think that when we buried the sea, that it was going to just fade and be silent forever, but that's not the case. The sea and all the places have their own voices and they rebound on us. So when we, so when we felt that we surrounded the sea, it wasn't like that wasn't the case. It was facing its fate, and the only way to do that was to just surround it and make sure that it changes its color. And and it has the ability to revive itself. So we had to make sure that it changes its color, it changes its smell, and that's when we were able to finally just bury it forever.
So you see yourself as speaking for the sea. That's the community that you speak for.
Yes. دائما في البحرين حين نتحدث نقول كان البحر هنا ثم دفن، هكذا تبدأ الذاكرة والحكاية والحدود.
We always in Bahrain, when we talk, we say here it was a sea, and that's where the memory started. That it was originally a sea, it was not soil or land.
Wow.
And the line and the history. لذلك دائما ما تكتب الأجيال السابقة عن البحر بخوف، برعب، بإحساسهم بأنه هو الشيطان، هو الشر، بينما أتيت أنا لأكتب عن هذا البحر المحاصر الذي لا يستطيع الدفاع عن نفسه إلا من خلال الأجيال الحديثة، والأجيال الحديثة تنظر إلى المدينة الزجاجية، المدينة الحديثة التي تذكرنا.
So that's why the older generations always talk about the sea with fear. They feared that it was evil to them. But now I'm writing about that sea which has been surrounded by us and it's misunderstood. The only way that it's going to be helped is through the newer generations. How do generations look at the sea? The older ones and their experience with it, the new ones and our experience.
So you're a voice of a younger generation.
And the sea.
And the sea.
Yes.
But the new generation, they never look to the sea. They always looking to the city, the new city. They want the new city, the new building, the mall. This is what they want. They never think about the sea and what's going on. They are happy with the new island. They think it is a new country. Like anyone visit Bahrain, they think it is just a new country with a new shiny building, but it's not. We have our history. We have to look to our history and speak about it. Because this دائما ما أدافع عن هويتي البحرية لأننا الجزيرة الوحيدة في المنطقة.
I always defend my
identity.
Like
I am the identity. I speak English.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Thank you. So we have a bit of time for some questions from the audience. Oh, wonderful. There's a hand straight up. Excellent. Oh, lots of hands. Well, could we go to, we need a microphone maybe to go around. You need a microphone from here? I'm going to hold on, but could we take one of these? Thank you. Yes, so could we go to the lady who was the first with her hand up, with the glasses and the blue top, please? Thank you.
A very good morning. I'm really very entrailed by learning so many stories from across the globe. And first of all, thank you very much. I'm really delighted to be here. I think I'm very, very much blessed, for getting this opportunity to be here and hear you all of the panelists out here. So my question is like, it's not kind of a question, but I think when I actually hear about identity and belonging, a lot of things that comes to my mind. The first question, Ma'am Rima has talked about, when she go outside and there's idea of Islamophobic world. She talked about how people think, that Islamophobic world is a little bit like the narrative that goes on beyond, the borders when you talk about identity and belonging. So my question is like, do you sometimes feel that associating yourself, like, do you sometimes feel that when you go out, you try to associate yourself with a certain kind of identity, you feel that that is kind of, a sovereignistic one, like, as you talked about the self and the othering, right? So sometimes you feel that when you go outside, you feel like that you are, maybe you don't want to show yourself as something that you are portraying in your, back home in your country, but then when you go outside, you feel like that, that kind of identity will be like something which is going to give you a chauvinism over, and then you kind of hide it through. And following up with that, you feel like that this is kind of a vicious cycle that goes on, trying to put yourself into the position of self, not having, I hope I'm clear with that. So,
Okay.
how do you look into that perspective?
Thank you. Because we're short on time, I'm going to direct it to individuals because really that sounds like a question for you. I'll reframe it for you. So I'm just going to tell you. So she said that do you feel that when you go outside, outside your community, you adopt a different identity to protect certain elements of yourself, or because you're going to face the sort of discrimination that you described? Do you find that you alter yourself outside in different communities? And how does that reflect on your sense of self?
Well, that's a wonderful question, by the way. I proudly present myself as I am, and I'm not ready to do anything for the sake of others. Okay? I'm happy with my identity. I'm happy who I am. I'm civilized enough. I'm highly educated thanks to my parents and my good fortune, nothing else. Okay? I read, I write, I try to know, and I try to act decently, in a proper way, in every place. I can't wear a bikini and come to this session, right? So this is a right way to deal with things. I can't go to Mecca or to Najaf. Najaf is a preserved place, a holy place in Iraq. I can't go to Najaf with a t-shirt and tight jeans, but I wear t-shirt and jeans, and I'm not against wearing jeans. I'm not against any other cultures. I'm not against hijab. I'm not against openness. I have peace in myself, and I don't. As long as you are free not to harm me, so that's it. We are all free and safe to live in peace, and that's it. Don't take my right of land or living or way to express my culture, my everything, my holy way ceremonies, for example, and live your life and let live. That's it. This is how I look at it.
Yes, okay.
And thank you for the wonderful question.
Yes, thank you. Maya wanted to add a little.
I will add a little thing. Reem was saying that when the other asked her about things concerning her culture, she takes it as, or maybe it's true, like the other wants to categorize her. But when I'm being asked the same question, I consider the other wanting to know more about me. I take it simply. I just tell them, in the West, they think of all the Arab world as being Saudi Arabia. They say, oh, do you drive cars? No, I just tell them, no, this is in Saudi Arabia, but I'm in Egypt. No, we have women liberation here. And I try to explain to him. And this is my role as a representative of my country. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question, please. We have a hand at the front. Thank you.
Good evening. I have three questions to Naim, to Layla, and Jilsa. Jilsa? Yeah. Naim, your latest novel, Pension Clio, you have changed the voice of narrative. You always spoke through about women, but in this novel, you talk about the voices of men. Why? And Layla,
I'm going to stop you there and keep it to one question, just so that students have an opportunity as well, because we only have 7 minutes left.
Okay.
So, thank you. So, the question for anyone who didn't hear it was, in your latest novel,
Yes.
you write about men or a male perspective.
Yes,
And
the protagonists are men and the voice of men. This is just the same title of this session. It's about identity. Identity changes. I spoke for women in many novels, and now it has become my role to speak in the voices of men. Why? Because my age has grown up. And I have discovered lately that men and women, when they reach a certain age, they become more human, apart from gender. They belong to humanity. Not just, of course, they keep their genders, but the language is more or less the same. So I found it easy to speak in the tongue of men who are 70, who are retiring, a group of friends, and coming back together and speaking like women, not in a negative way, but in a positive way, expressing themselves as longing to the past and these things.
thank you very much. Any more questions? There's a hand up there. Thank you. If the microphone could go there, please.
Good afternoon, good morning, everyone. My name is Nigam Teko, a student from this university. My question is, do all of the identities are of equal and of same value and importance? In case of binary construction of male, female, race, poor, nationalisms, and religious constructions, all the binaries, as the dominant group often considered as their identity is the best, and that look down upon others. And so
I'm just going to check I heard correctly, because the sound is a little challenging. Are you saying that is Arab identity an identity that people look down on? Is that what you're asking?
All identities are equal or not? Superior? Is there any binary of superiority and inferiority?
So a binary. It can be very simply just what is the question? Sorry, it's just a bit hard to hear with the microphones.
Do all identities are equal?
Are all identities equal? Okay. Is anyone who would like to take that? I think Gisela or Shubnam or Layla should speak, really. I think all you said are all identities equal.
I think you mean within all the identities that you hold within yourself.
Yes, I see. Good thank you.
For me, no. Some have more importance to me than I would. It changes. It's a constantly changing thing. But I wouldn't say each. I wouldn't say I equally hold being South African as equally being Muslim, as equally being Indian, as equal being African, as equal. For me, it changes all the time. And yeah.
Maybe it depends on the company you're in, whether certain elements
I
come to
think
the
it depends
fore.
on who you are at the time. That can change as you get older.
Yeah, that's a good point. Thank you. I'm afraid I don't think we have time for another question because I'm conscious of my having to get to another session. No, because there's another session coming. So I think we should probably wind up here. But it's been such a wonderful discussion. Thank you all for being so generous with your ideas and with your stories and with sharing yourselves. And thank you all for listening. Please join me in thanking the panelists.
Thank you for such deeply moving and thought-provoking discussion. The reflections shared today remind us that introspection is not isolation, it is connection. It invites us to listen more closely to ourselves and to others. As we conclude, let us carry forward the spirit of today's conversation, a willingness to look inward with honesty and outward with compassion. On behalf of the Dibrugad University International Literature Festival, I extend heartfelt thanks to Anne Morgan, Gisela Casimiro, Meg Haley, Shabnam Khan, Meen Kais Kabba, and Laila Al-Matawa, and with that also to Mohsin Abu Ali, for sharing their generosity of thought and spirit. And I'd also take this opportunity to once again thank all the sponsors of this session. And thank you, dear audience, for being part of this meaningful exchange. May we continue to read bravely, write honestly, and listen deeply. Thank you and have a wonderful day ahead.